Okay, so something shifted this weekend and I need to talk about it. February 9th, we've got the last quarter moon happening. And honestly, if you've been feeling like everything in your life is suddenly requiring a decision, this is why. Mike, I've been getting so many messages from people saying they're feeling this weird pressure to either commit or walk away from situations. And when I looked at what's happening astrologically, it all made sense. Here's the thing about last quarter moons that most people don't realize. They're not like full moons where everything's dramatic and obvious. They're more like, okay, imagine you've been on a road trip and suddenly you realize you're running out of gas and you need to decide whether to keep going or turn around. That's what this energy feels like. It's decision time, but it's quiet, it's internal. And right now, with everything else happening in the sky, this particular last quarter moon is hitting different. So the moon is waning, right? It's in its final quarter phase, moving from full moon toward new moon. And what's interesting about this one is where it's positioned. We're between the full moon in Leo that happened on February 1st and the solar eclipse in Aquarius, coming up on February 17th. So we're literally in this bridge period, this transition zone where the universe is asking you to wrap things up before the eclipse season really kicks in. And if you're already feeling what I'm talking about, go ahead and leave a like and subscribe. I do these weekly. Drop a comment saying clearing space so I know this is resonating. Alright, so let me break down what's actually happening here and why it matters so much for your relationships and personal life right now. The last quarter moon on February 9th is basically the universe's way of saying, okay, time to release what didn't work. Like we had that full moon in Leo a week ago which brought everything to the surface. All that drama, all those emotions, all the things you've been avoiding. And now this last quarter moon is the follow-up. It's like, cool, you saw everything clearly during the full moon, now what are you going to do about it? What makes this one particularly intense is that we're dealing with Aquarius energy. The sun is moving through Aquarius right now, somewhere around 20 degrees, and Aquarius is all about truth, freedom, authenticity, and not tolerating things that don't align with who you really are. So when you combine that, Aquarius, I need to be real energy with this last quarter moon time to let go energy, you get this perfect storm of clarity that forces you to make choices you've been postponing. I've been noticing something in a lot of people's charts lately. There's this pattern where relationships that have been kind of hanging on by a thread, where both people know it's not quite right but nobody wants to admit it. Those situations are coming to a head right now. Not in a big explosive way necessarily, but more like a quiet knowing. Like, oh, this isn't working, is it? And suddenly both people can see it at the same time. The thing about Aquarius season is it strips away the emotional manipulation, the guilt trips, the but we've been together so long arguments. Aquarius just looks at the facts. Does this relationship support who you're becoming? Does this friendship actually nourish you? Does this job align with your values? And if the answer is no, Aquarius energy doesn't have patience for pretending otherwise. Now, here's where timing becomes really important. Saturn is about to enter Aries on February 13th, which is just 4 days after this last quarter moon. Saturn in Aries is a completely different energy than what we've been dealing with. Saturn's been in Pisces, which has been all emotional, boundaryless, compassionate almost to a fault. But Saturn in Aries, that's about taking action, setting firm boundaries, prioritizing yourself, and not apologizing for your needs. So this last quarter moon on the 9th is like your last chance to clear out the old Pisces-Saturn energy, the stuff where you've been too accommodating, too flexible, too willing to sacrifice your own needs. Because once Saturn moves into Aries, the energy shifts dramatically. You're going to want clear space to work with that new assertive energy. You don't want to be dragging old situations into this new chapter. And then, right behind that, we've got the Saturn-Neptune conjunction happening on February 20th at 0 degrees Aries. This is huge. Saturn and Neptune only meet up every 35 to 36 years. And they haven't been at 0 degrees Aries, the very beginning of the zodiac, in over 1,000 years. Like, this is legitimately a once-in-a-lifetime transit. And what it represents is this merging of structure and spirituality, discipline and dreams, reality and vision. But here's the thing about major transits like that. They work best when you've already done the clearing work. If your life is cluttered with situations that drain you, relationships that exhaust you, commitments that don't serve you, you're not going to be able to receive the gifts that Saturn-Neptune conjunction wants to bring. So this last quarter moon is essentially prep work. It's the universe giving you a heads up. Hey, clean house now, because something important is coming. Let me talk about what this looks like for different people, because it's definitely not showing up the same way for everyone. If you're an Aquarius, this is hitting your first house, your house of self and identity. So you might be realizing that you've been playing a role that doesn't fit anymore. Like, maybe you've been the responsible one in your family or the available friend who always drops everything, and suddenly you're like, wait, is this actually me? Or is this just what everyone expects? This last quarter moon is giving you permission to shed that identity and step into something more authentic. For Leo, this is about relationships and partnerships because Aquarius is your opposite sign. So if you're Leo, you might be having some real talk moments with significant people in your life. Not fights necessarily, but honest conversations about whether you're both on the same page, whether you want the same things, whether this partnership is actually supporting both of you, or if one person has been doing most of the work. The moon is asking you to be honest about what's balanced and what's not. Taurus and Scorpio, you're dealing with fixed sign energy here, so this is probably showing up as internal tension. Like part of you wants to hold on to what's familiar because change feels uncomfortable, but another part of you knows things need to shift. You might notice this as anxiety or restlessness. That's just your intuition trying to get your attention, telling you that staying stuck is actually more exhausting than moving forward would be. For Pisces, and this is interesting because Saturn's been in your sign and is about to leave, you might feel a weird mix of relief and uncertainty. Like you've been carrying so much responsibility, so much weight, and now it's time to put some of that down. But there's a part of you that's like, but what if everything falls apart without me holding it together? The last quarter moon is showing you that things won't fall apart. Other people can handle their own stuff. You're allowed to step back. Alright, so practically speaking, what do you do with this energy? Because it's one thing to understand what's happening astrologically, and it's another thing to know how to work with it. First thing, this is a closing phase. Last quarter moons are not for starting new things. This is not the time to launch a project, to begin a new relationship, or make big initiatory moves. This is for completion, finishing what you started, tying up loose ends, letting go of what's no longer serving you. If there are conversations you've been avoiding, this is the week to have them. Not aggressively, not emotionally, but clearly. Aquarius gives you that ability to communicate from a place of detachment, where you're not trying to manipulate the outcome, you're just stating the truth. Like, this isn't working for me anymore, or I need something different, or I've outgrown this situation. Those kinds of statements are powerful right now because they're not attacks, they're just facts. This is also a really good time to do actual physical clearing. Clean out your closet. Delete old contacts from your phone. Unfollow accounts that make you feel bad about yourself. Clear your email inbox. I know that sounds basic, but there's something about physical clearing that helps the emotional clearing happen. Your external environment reflects your internal state. So when you create space externally, you're telling the universe you're ready for something new internally. One thing I want to mention, because I've seen this happen before with last quarter moons, is that sometimes the clearing isn't dramatic. Sometimes it's just a quiet shift in your energy where you stop trying so hard with someone or something. Like, you don't have a big breakup conversation, you just stop reaching out. You don't quit your job in a dramatic fashion, you just start updating your resume. The release doesn't have to be theatrical to be real. The moon is also pulling us toward that solar eclipse on the 17th, which is going to be in Aquarius at almost 29 degrees. Eclipses are these big reset moments, these cosmic course corrections where the universe steps in and moves things around. But eclipses work best when you've already been doing the work. When you've already been making the adjustments they're going to require anyway. So this last quarter moon is like your opportunity to make those changes voluntarily before the eclipse comes in and makes them for you. Here's what I've noticed about eclipse season. When you resist the changes that need to happen, when you cling to what needs to go, the eclipses tend to be more disruptive. Things get taken away more abruptly. But when you're already in the flow of releasing and making space, eclipses feel more like confirmations than disruptions. They feel like, oh yeah, I was already moving in that direction anyway, and now the universe is just accelerating it. Jupiter's also retrograde in Cancer right now, which adds this interesting layer. Jupiter retrograde is about reviewing your growth, looking at where you've been expanding, asking whether that expansion has been authentic or just excessive. Like, have you been saying yes to everything because you're genuinely excited, or because you're afraid of missing out? Have you been growing your social circle because these people actually nourish you, or because you think you're supposed to have a big friend group? Jupiter retrograde asks those questions, and this last quarter moon is the moment to act on the answers. Let me talk about the emotional quality of this time, because that's important too. Last quarter moons can feel kind of melancholy. There's often this sense of something ending, and even when that ending is necessary and healthy, there's still grief. That's normal. You can know something isn't right for you anymore and still feel sad about letting it go. You can outgrow a friendship and still miss the version of yourself who fit in that dynamic. That bittersweet feeling doesn't mean you're making the wrong choice. It just means you're human. What I'd suggest during this phase is being gentle with yourself, while also being firm about what needs to change. Like, you can honor the sadness while still moving forward. You don't have to be cold or ruthless about letting things go. You can release with love, with gratitude for what was, while still being clear that it's time to move on. The other thing about this particular last quarter moon is it's happening in the middle of Mercury and Venus both being in late Aquarius, getting ready to move into Pisces. So there's this interesting shift happening where communication and relationships are moving from Aquarius logic into Pisces emotion. What that means is, decisions you make now from a place of clarity and truth are going to be tested emotionally in the next couple weeks. Like, you might make a clear-headed choice this week and then next week feel all the feelings about it. That's actually okay. That's part of the process. You make the logical choice when you have access to Aquarius clarity, and then you process the emotional aftermath when Mercury and Venus move into Pisces. The key is not letting the emotional processing talk you out of the clarity you had. Because sometimes our emotions will try to convince us to go back to what's familiar, even when it's not good for us. That's just fear. That's just discomfort with change. It doesn't mean you made the wrong call. I want to talk about Mars for a second, because Mars is in Aquarius too right now, and that's significant. Mars is your drive, your action, your assertion. Mars in Aquarius is about fighting for your independence, your authenticity, your freedom to be weird and different, and yourself. So when you're making decisions during this last quarter moon, you have Mars backing you up, giving you the courage to actually follow through on what you know needs to change. Sometimes we have clarity, but we don't have the guts to act on it. This is not one of those times. Mars in Aquarius doesn't care what people think. It doesn't care if your choice makes others uncomfortable. It cares about what's true, what's real, what's authentic. So if you've been waiting for permission to make a change you've been thinking about, this is it. You have cosmic support right now. Uranus, which rules Aquarius, just went direct on February 3rd after being retrograde since September. So we've got this forward momentum building with the planet that governs breakthroughs, liberation, and sudden changes. Uranus direct means the insights you've been having internally during the retrograde period are now ready to become external action. The inner work becomes outer transformation. Uranus in Taurus, where it currently is, has been shaking up everything related to security, stability, money, values, physical comfort. So if this last quarter moon is bringing up decisions around those topics, that's Uranus energy. Maybe you realize the job that pays well doesn't actually align with your values. Maybe you understand that financial security you've been chasing isn't as important as work that means something. Maybe you're questioning whether the stable relationship is actually nourishing or just habitual. These are your Uranus questions, and this last quarter moon is giving you a moment to act on them before Saturn changes signs and we enter a whole new chapter energetically. Because once Saturn's in Aries, the focus shifts to self, identity, initiative, courage, leadership. You're going to want to have your energy freed up to work with those themes. You don't want to be stuck dealing with situations you should have released back in Pisces Saturn. I keep coming back to this idea of preparation because that's really what this is. We're preparing for something. The eclipse season starting February 17th. Saturn entering Aries on the 13th. The Saturn-Neptune conjunction on the 20th. All of these are major shifts, and the universe is giving us this last quarter moon as a chance to ready ourselves, to clear the decks, to make space, to release what we don't need to carry forward. Think about it like moving to a new house. You don't take everything with you. You sort through your stuff. You donate things you haven't used in years. You throw away what's broken. You pack up only what you actually want in your new space. That's what this last quarter moon is asking you to do emotionally and energetically. What are you taking into the next chapter of your life, and what are you leaving behind? And look, I'm not saying it's easy. Letting go rarely is. Even when we know intellectually that something needs to change, there's usually some part of us that resists, that wants to hold on, that hopes maybe it'll get better. But here's what I've learned about cosmic timing. When the universe is showing you something needs to shift, when the energy is supporting a release, fighting against it just makes things harder. It's like swimming against a current. You'll exhaust yourself and end up where the current was taking you anyway. Better to work with the flow. Better to acknowledge what you already know in your gut and let the universe help you move forward. That's what this last quarter moon is offering. Support for the changes you've been feeling need to happen. Cosmic permission to let go. Energy that backs up your need for authenticity and truth. The week of this last quarter moon, pay attention to your dreams. Last quarter moons often bring subconscious material to the surface. You might have dreams about people from your past, situations you thought were resolved, or symbolic imagery that represents what you need to release. Don't dismiss those dreams. Your subconscious often understands what needs to shift before your conscious mind catches up. Also notice your energy levels. If something drains you, that's information. If thinking about a certain person or situation makes you feel heavy and tired, that's your body telling you something. Aquarius energy is mental and logical, sure, but it also respects patterns and data. And if the data consistently shows that something depletes you, that's worth paying attention to. Conversely, notice what energizes you, what makes you feel light and expansive and more like yourself. Who are the people you talk to and come away feeling clearer and more hopeful? What activities leave you feeling recharged? Those are the things you want to keep, to prioritize, to make more space for. And making space sometimes means letting go of what's taking up room unnecessarily. One more thing I want to mention, and this is important. This last quarter moon isn't telling you to blow up your entire life. It's not asking for chaos or drama. It's asking for honesty, for small, clear steps in the direction of what's true. Maybe that means having one difficult conversation. Maybe it means setting one boundary. Maybe it means finally admitting to yourself something you've been denying. The shifts don't have to be huge to be significant. Sometimes the most powerful changes are the quietest ones. The decision to stop people-pleasing, the choice to prioritize your needs, the realization that you don't have to fix everyone else's problems, the acknowledgement that you've outgrown a version of yourself you used to be. These internal shifts ripple outward and change everything, even if nobody else notices them at first. So here we are, February 9th, last quarter moon, middle of Aquarius season, right before Saturn changes signs, right before eclipse season, right before this massive Saturn-Neptune conjunction. This is the pause before the acceleration. This is the breath before the leap. This is your moment to look around at your life and ask yourself honestly, what here is mine to carry forward, and what here is ready to be released? Trust yourself on this. Your intuition knows. Even if your mind is trying to logic you into staying in situations that don't serve you, your gut knows. That uncomfortable feeling in your stomach when you think about certain people or commitments, that's not anxiety. That's wisdom. That's your body telling you something isn't aligned. Listen to that. And on the flip side, that sense of relief or excitement when you imagine letting something go, that's also wisdom. Sometimes we're more afraid of the unknown than we are committed to what we have. Like, really sit with that for a second. How many situations are you staying in, not because they're good, not because they make you happy, but just because they're familiar, because you know what to expect? Because the idea of not knowing what comes next feels scarier than the dissatisfaction you're currently living with? But the unknown is where growth lives. The unknown is where the new version of yourself is waiting. The unknown is where the life you're meant to live exists. Every single breakthrough you've ever had, every moment you've looked back on and thought, "I'm so glad that happened," came from stepping into uncertainty, from choosing the possibility of something better over the guarantee of something comfortable but limiting. I've noticed this pattern with people who are really stuck. It's not that they don't know what needs to change. They know. Their body knows, their intuition knows, their friends probably know. The issue is they've convinced themselves that the discomfort of staying is more manageable than the discomfort of leaving. They've made peace with being unhappy because unhappy in a predictable way feels safer than potentially happy in an unpredictable way. And that's heartbreaking, honestly, because they're choosing slow pain over possible joy. This last quarter moon is asking you to interrogate that choice. Is what you're holding on to actually worth holding on to, or are you just scared of your own capacity to rebuild? Because here's something I've learned from watching transit after transit. People are way more resilient than they think they are. The thing you're terrified won't survive without that person, that job, that situation. You'll be fine. Better than fine, actually. You'll be free. And freedom sometimes looks messy at first. It sometimes feels lonely before it feels liberating. It sometimes requires you to sit with discomfort while new structures form. But that temporary discomfort is not the same as the chronic, low-grade suffering of staying in something that's draining your life force. One is productive pain, growth pain, the kind that leads somewhere. The other is just stagnation wearing you down year after year. This last quarter moon is the bridge. It's the transition. It's the moment between what was and what's coming. And you get to choose what you take with you across that bridge. Choose consciously, choose authentically, choose based on who you're becoming, not who you used to be. Because I'll tell you what happens when people don't make that distinction. They take old baggage into new situations and wonder why the same patterns keep repeating. Like, you can't carry the version of yourself who accepted poor treatment into a new relationship and expect different results. You can't bring the version of yourself who said yes to everything into a new job and suddenly have better boundaries. You can't drag old insecurities, old patterns, old stories about what you deserve into a new chapter and expect those stories to magically change. The bridge is where you examine what you're carrying and decide what actually serves the person you're trying to become. And that person you're becoming, they need space to exist. They need room to breathe, to experiment, to figure out who they are without all the old definitions weighing them down. That's why this clearing is so important. It's not about being harsh or cold with people and situations from your past. It's about being honest about who you are now and what that version of you actually needs. Some people in your life will grow with you. Some situations will evolve as you evolve, but some won't, and that's okay. That's not a failure on anyone's part. That's just the natural progression of a life that's actually being lived instead of just endured. And the sooner you can make peace with that, the easier these transitions become. Because here's the truth. In about 10 days, we hit that solar eclipse, and eclipses don't ask permission. They just move things around. They close doors and open windows. They end chapters whether you're ready or not. But if you're already in the flow of releasing what needs to go, if you're already making space for what's coming, then the eclipse feels less like disruption and more like confirmation, less like loss and more like liberation, I've seen this play out so many times with eclipse seasons. The people who fight against the changes, who try to hold on to what's clearly ending, they have a rough time. Because eclipses are powerful, and when you resist their momentum, it's like trying to stop a wave with your hands. You just get knocked over. But the people who've already been doing the work, who've already been listening to their intuition and making the adjustments they knew were necessary, for them, eclipses feel almost anticlimactic. They're like, oh yeah, that thing that's ending? I already knew that was coming. I've been preparing. That's where you want to be. You want to be ahead of the eclipse energy, not caught off guard by it. And this last quarter moon is your opportunity to get ahead of it, to look at your life with clear eyes and honest assessment, to notice where you're forcing things that don't flow, to recognize where you're overgiving to people who underappreciate, to see where you're shrinking yourself to fit into spaces that were never meant for you. The eclipse on the 17th is in Aquarius, which means it's about truth, authenticity, community, and where you stand as an individual within the collective. It's asking whether you're being real with people or performing a version of yourself you think they want to see, whether your friendships actually reflect your values or if you're just going through the motions, whether the communities you're part of celebrate who you are or require you to be someone else. Those are big questions, and they're easier to answer when you've already started the clearing process, when you've already been honest with yourself about what's working and what isn't, when you've already begun the work of releasing what doesn't serve you. Then the eclipse comes in, and it's not this scary disruptive force. It's just the universe saying, yes, exactly, keep going. Here's some momentum to help you along. So between now and the 17th, pay attention to what you're being shown. Notice what's asking to be released. Honor the grief if it comes up, but don't let grief talk you into staying stuck. And trust that whatever's leaving your life is making room for something better, something truer, something more aligned with who you're becoming. Because that's the other piece people forget. Letting go doesn't create an empty void that just stays empty. Nature abhors a vacuum. Energy doesn't just disappear. When you release something, something else comes in to fill that space. And when you're clearing out consciously, when you're releasing with intention, you get to influence what comes in next. You get to set the terms. You get to say, I'm done with dynamics that drain me. I'm ready for connections that energize me. And then watch how the universe responds to that clarity. The last quarter moon is giving you the clarity. The eclipse is going to bring the movement. And Saturn entering Aries on the 13th is going to give you the courage to follow through. All the pieces are aligning to support you in this transition. The question is just whether you're going to work with the energy or resist it. And honestly, after doing this long enough, I can tell you that working with it is so much easier. Resistance is exhausting. Flow is liberating. So look at what you're holding on to and ask yourself, is this mine to carry forward, or am I just scared to put it down? And if the answer is the latter, this week is your moment. This is when you set it down. This is when you walk across that bridge with lighter hands and a clearer heart. This is when you choose yourself, choose truth, choose the unknown that's calling you forward instead of the familiar that's holding you back. Alright, that's what I wanted to share about this last quarter moon. It's subtle but significant. It's quiet but powerful. It's preparing you for everything that's about to unfold in the next couple weeks. If this resonated, leave a like and subscribe for more, and drop clearing space in the comments so I know you're working with this energy. Take care of yourself through this transition. You're not letting go of anything that was meant to stay. See you next time.